And good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. This is Hindu Lounge. Welcome to Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindu Pact. Hindu Pact is Hindu Policy Research and Advocacy Collective. Hindu Lounge comes live every Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific. And in Hindu Lounge, we talk about contemporary American Hindu issues. And of course, Hindu Pact, as you all know by now, is an initiative of World Hindu Council of America or WHPA. And as always, here is Utsada. Utsada, welcome. Utsada, for those who still don't know, Utsada is not just a well-known, now very well-known, well sought after, interviewee and commentator on American Hindu issues. Utsada is also the executive director of Hindu Pact, and I am Ajay Shah. I am the president of World Hindu Council of America or WHPA. Utsada, what a couple of weeks. Sorry, we couldn't do the call last week, right? Because we had other engagements, and there was a governing council meeting of World in the Council of America last week in Atlanta, and there was a there was a really nice gathering, and people talked about not just about contemporary American Hindu issues, but the how we can how World in the Council of America can make a difference even after 51 years, about 52 years rather, of being in existence. What are the next 50 years going to look like, and what we can do to serve the society we live in? And Utsada, you were uh, out of town and on some personal time off, but you also, even though you're a member of the governing council of World in the Council of America as well, but you had some family time, and you were also analyzing the election, and that is our show for today, right? We are going to talk about the the election that just concluded, the midterm election. The elections results are in, right? The house was hanging in in suspense for a long time. So tell us uh, tell us what your thoughts are, and welcome. Any opening remarks, and what your initial thoughts about elections are?
Well, thank you, Ajay, for the generous introduction. And I think the elections, everybody by now in America knows that it takes forever for the elections to be certified. It takes forever for candidates to finally figure out who won. And if you ask most people, they would say it's a mess. And that's the feedback I got from a lot of people. Uh, and I think the results kind of are still actually it's not final yet officially. So
Officially not final yet.
and many places the counting is still in like 95%, 92%, 98%. So it is still out there. Two weeks almost have gone since the election. So it's a mess, and we are hoping that there will be finally a house that comes together. And we are looking forward to people who will join different committees, because as you know, Hindu Pact and many other Hindu organizations and Bangladeshi organizations work to bring together a resolution, HRES 1430. So we are eager to see who will be the Foreign Affairs Committee in the new house. We are eager to see what's going to happen. So it's a tense time for a lot of lawmakers and their staffers. And I think about the staffers. I mean, those who lost elections, staffers have to find a new job. And hopefully, if they are Republicans, then they have a better chance of finding a job, because now there are more Republican members in the House. And they have actually taken the House. Republicans officially have taken the House. And most likely they will cross the 280 number and be somewhere close to where the Democrats were, which is 220. The Democrats were at 220. So I believe the Republicans will be now at that stage, which is far from what was expected from their election performance, because people thought it's going to be a red wave, a red tsunami. Different terms were used, and it didn't happen that way. And we are going to analyze today some of those election outcomes, and why the so-called red wave or the red tsunami didn't happen, or whether it did happen and didn't express itself to its fullest potential. So
and,
whatever be
and
the
and sometimes it doesn't take in a electoral democracy. Sometimes it takes very few votes in some constituency to kind of flip the seat or keep the seat. And also it is in some places, obviously the results are very unexpected. Some places were really cliffhangers anyway. So for example, in Pennsylvania, it was very very close race, and the polls did show that are that Fetterman, who is the current you know uh, I believe he's the current uh, deputy governor, or was leading a little bit, and then uh, he went out and won the election, and that was one of the swing states that decided the fate of the Senate, actually. And now Georgia is still kind of hanging in the balance. So that we have to see. I think the runoff is on December 6th, and December 6th will decide if Democrats have a 51 vote majority, which will make a lot of things easier. For example,
So for people who are following, money in American politics, and people who make their decision on who is the underdog and who is the power broker, who is the top dog, based on financing in American election, just watch out for how much money gets poured into the Senate seat in Georgia that is still hanging, and the runoff that is going to be in December 6th. Just follow the money. You will see who controls American politics, and who controls the corrupt corporate world in American politics. Just follow the money.
And Utsada, I should remind our viewers that we played a very significant role from mobilize in terms of mobilizing and educating the Hindu community when it comes to this midterm elections. I think we have done a couple of shows on this. We set up a website called HinduVote.org, HinduVote.org, and HinduVote.org website, for the first time that we know of, was a very comprehensive guide, voter guide for Hindu voters in America. So we sent out emails to 1,150 candidates from all parties, whether it is Keystone Party or Workers Party or Libertarian Party, Green Party, Democrats, Republicans, all independents. All of them got a questionnaire which was Hindu focused, and they were able to, they had the ability to reply to the questionnaire. We also give people in their constituency power to rank the candidate and their engagement with the Hindu community in that area. And the third part was we actually ranked the candidate on their voting record if they had one. So these three components made up the website that the special section on the website, hinduvote.org. And Utsada, just to give people a flavor of it, we had thousands of people actually visit the website, and we had substantial number of candidates actually go for the first
Ajay,
time.
why don't you share the screen so that people can take a look again,
Absolutely,
about
absolutely.
because it
So
is something that we are going to continue to maintain. And as you all know, in the next couple of months, there is going to be activities again in the political electoral circles.
yeah.
So please, yeah.
Yes, as Utsada just mentioned, here is the hinduvote.org website for those who may have missed it. This is the here is the website, and you can see that there are all kinds of resources for Hindu Americans on the website, or and then a lot of our legislative actions, uh, other activities we have done, like holding the elected officials' feet to fire, talk about the voter outreach, get out the vote campaign, uh, and some some tools that voters can use. But what was more significant this time around, so that was this 2022 election section. And the 2022 election section, we had some videos, we had articles, press releases, resources, and other election tools. And here, when people type the name of the constituency, so for example, here's the VHPA address. It's a 200 Bond Street in Illinois. Uh, oh, it's New Bond Street. I'm sorry, I should have said New Bond Street as opposed to the old Bond Street in Sugar Grove, Illinois. And you can see you got all the, uh, you get a list of candidates, and then you can. So the while it is coming up, let me ask you this. So here are the list of candidates, and you can then pick, for example, a Republican candidate in that area, and you can express your opinion. You can also look at the survey responses if there are any. You can also look at the candidate questionnaires, and you can see if the candidate is pro-Hindu, then you would see the thumbs up sign. So that is the website. So the one question I got, and I want to take your opinion on this. So there was quite a bit of discussion about this website on some WhatsApp groups, and one of the theme of the discussion was that uh, this that Hindu Pact, and it's a challenge for you to answer this question. It's a challenge for me to answer this question. The question was, and of course, there's very easy explanation, but we were challenged that can you answer this? So that's what I meant by that. The what I was asked in one of the by by one of the critiques of this website was that, look, I mean, majority of the Hindus are Democrats, and by doing a voter education drive, and by doing voter registration and encouraging more Hindus to vote, you're just promoting the Democratic Party indirectly. Because all the people who are first time voters, all the people who have not voted before, just are going to blindly go and vote for Democratic Party. And so what you're doing is nothing but, working for Democratic Party in promoting voter registration and voter mobilization. And so that this could be as far from truth as it can be, right? I mean, our goal was to arm people with information so they can make informed choices. And yet, this is the criticism that we ended up getting. Why do you think that is? And these are for people who are on the political right of the spectrum.
Well, first of all, I would say that the argument itself is extremely dystopian. It is almost, it's almost. I cannot even say how negatively it is. It looks at Hindu community itself and how little confidence it has in the in the education and the will and the dynamism of the Hindu community. So I think it's a very dystopian comment, a dystopian position to take. It's like, if had this been, I'll give you an Indian example, because a lot of Hindus uh, have tried, especially those who are from immigrants from India, compare things very quickly to Indian politics. So I would give you the example of Indian politics and say, like, what if the Hindus in Uttar Pradesh, the northern state of India, where one of very
Yeah.
popular political leader rules. What if Hindus of Uttar Pradesh had felt and said to themselves, we should just not go out and vote, because for decades the Hindus have been voting for quote unquote divisive leaders who are not looking out for Hindu interests. Therefore, we should never go out and vote. If that had been the case, then Uttar Pradesh would not be what it is today. In the second term of Yogi Adityanath's politics. Same with national elections. What if in 2013 Hindus felt, let's not go out and vote? For 8 years we have had Hindus, obviously, voting for corrupt political leaders. So
Right.
I feel it concerns me that this narrative actually came out from within our community, and it concerns me because I'm pretty sure the people who are discussing this are powerful, thoughtful people, and
Yeah.
And it bothers me that the community probably is quite influenced and impressed by some other thoughts and narratives that these people promote and present. And that's my bigger concern here.
Well,
And
so let me, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
but I have to say that we as a Hindu pact, and the website that was done, the Hindu Vote website, was absolutely non-partisan. It looked at every kind. In fact, we spent an enormous amount of time to our own detriment to ensure that all political sides are not given are given equal representation. In fact, we could have launched the site 15 days earlier or a month earlier had we just cherry picked candidates and did analysis of them. We did not do that. and
Yeah,
and also on top of that, we did an analysis of pro Hindu candidates,
right.
and lawmakers who have already voted in favor of resolutions and bills that are, we believe, was pro Hindu. That would have filtered out. So if at all this person felt that Democrats were getting benefited from it, what we did in terms of our analysis would have probably, if the Republicans were more pro Hindu, by their voting, by the presentation of the resolutions and bills, that would have been visible in the site. And that's what we did a very fair analysis based on evidence. So I think this is I would hope that Hindus vote more, because the more you vote, the more powerful your voice is in a democracy. uh, I'm not saying Hindus vote for one party. I think Hindus should be very clear about who serves their best interest in any given area.
Yeah. So let me just echo your thoughts, right? Because I've always thought that Hindus are not a monolithic community, and Hindus should not act like a monolithic community, and Hindus are not a block voting community, and they should not act like one. I think our goal was to educate people on all the educate all the Hindus about American contemporary American Hindu issues. So what are the so a lot of times Hindus don't even know that there are Hindu issues out there, because a lot of Hindus live in suburbia and they have comfortable life, and they don't know the kind of bullying even their own kids are facing in the schools. Many Hindus feel like the temple that just got vandalized was maybe 1,000 miles away, but they don't know that uh, at one time or the other, uh, a temple in temples in many states have been vandalized, and there is a temple not too far from their home at one time was either vandalized or is very likely to be vandalized. Most of the time Hindus don't know that the history of India and history of Hindu dharma has been misportrayed in the schools. So our goal was to educate the Hindu voters that these are the Hindu issues, and you want to hold your elected representative, you want to find an elected representative first who understands these issues, who pledges to make sure that enough federal resources are available to counter Hindu phobia, counter Hindu hate, and counter the vandalism that happens in Hindu places of worship, or the statue of Mahatma Gandhi, which gets vandalized every so frequently in various parts of America. So that is one. The second thing, after the education piece, we wanted to give insight into all the candidates, and we wanted to show if the candidates' values and candidates' opinions also align with align with the Hindus. And that's why we had questions which are broader than just the Hindu focused questions. We did have questions on abortion and gun control and some of the other areas. The third thing, so that was really important, was that we also wanted the candidates to give their opinion on the Hindu issues. But most importantly, so that we wanted the Hindus to in America to know that they that they don't really have to tie all their hopes and aspirations to a single party. What we want to do ideally is for Hindus to be able to choose what candidates from either of the two parties or a third party or the fourth party is more closely aligned to their beliefs. Because you're very likely to find candidates who are independent, or who are Republicans, or sometimes Democrats, or sometimes libertarian, who align with your views and who are willing to further the wellness of Hindus in America. So I think we absolutely want, in fact we want people from different political parties and all political parties to support Hindu causes, not just Democrats or Republican. And that is what I found really uh, in many ways objectionable about this argument that we are promoting one party or the other, because it cannot be further from truth. We There is really no reason for a group like Hindu Pact to say that we want only Democrats or only Republicans to win. We do not want all our eggs in one basket. We want all political parties to be pro Hindu. And that, I mean, that should, even when we have done so that, I mean, that helps me transition to the next segment, where we are going to analyze some of the candidates, right? So for example, I mean, in my view, if you look at the constituency where Representative Ro Khanna was fighting elections, right? His opponent was a Hindu, Ritesh Tandon. And I mean, we Ritesh Tandon has been on this show before, and we're very closely, uh, related to some of the positions he has taken. On the other hand, Ro Khanna also supported or introduced, rather, co-sponsored the House resolution on Bangladesh genocide. And now this is the constituency where we had both the candidates who supported the Bangladesh genocide resolution. I mean, and of course, I mean, Ritesh Tandon has been on this show. He has expressed alignment with us on many other issues. Ro Khanna, on the other hand, has not. But when it came to Bangladesh issue resolution, both of them supported it. And what we would
Both
like
of
to
them
see is in
supported it,
all
and
435 constituency, all parties support this resolution, right?
not just that. The fun part here is that, in fact, the resolution was introduced by a Republican, which shows how much, to be honest, the congressman who introduced it cared about it, and Ritesh supported it. So there you see some Republicans owning this, and then Roe also supported. So basically, I think there is much more that our community can achieve if we look at things in a bipartisan manner, and you know promote a competitive spirit towards uh, helping Hindu causes across America in both parties. And I think that brings out the best in everybody.
Yeah. So while we are talking about Ro Khanna, right? Ro Khanna obviously has presidential ambitions, and Ro Khanna, while he supported co-sponsored the House Resolution 1430 on Bangladesh recognition of Bangladesh genocide, Ro Khanna is also a member of Pakistani caucus, and he has spoken out against. Uh, a lot of Hindu interest in America, and you know he has a very carefully crafted strategy. He also has 100% rating from CARE, which is the Council on American Islamic Relations. Uh,
I don't know,
what
after
do you?
co-sponsoring the Bangladesh resolution, if his rating is going to actually still stay the same. But
I,
because the most of the Islamists tried to target Roe, and I know I was following the, the targeting of those from those people. So Roe was very aggressively targeted by the Islamists. But the thing that benefit that Roe had in his favor was that he had such a strong track record of supporting anti-Hindu issues in the past, that when Islamists targeted him, he almost brushed them aside, saying, "Hey, you don't get to speak here." And that was actually pretty interesting to watch. I mean, politics is a very funny thing, and we were watching. Even Hindus for Human Rights came out and targeted Ro Khanna for co-sponsoring the 1971 genocide resolution. And when somebody called out Hindus for Human Rights by saying that, hey, you actually host events with the organizations whose leaders were responsible for the 1971 genocide. And this is something that not Hindus are saying, it's something that the Muslim government in Bangladesh is saying. So that's when Hindus for Human Rights deleted eventually, like they waited for 2 weeks and then started deleting those tweets so that nobody, as if nobody noticed what they were doing. So it was very
we,
fascinating to
we
see.
do have screenshots, right?
Well,
Internet never forgets.
somebody noticed, obviously, since we are discussing this. So but it was very funny that an organization like Hindus for Human Rights, which which is in bed, I cannot put it in any different way, in bed with Islamist organizations, started the criticism of the 1971 genocide until somebody pointed out to them that maybe you should first stop co-hosting events with those who actually committed the genocide before you start criticizing the
So,
resolution.
so that tell us a little bit more about it before we go to the next candidate. Who did they host the event with?
So I mean, Hindu Pact has tweeted about this in the past with
Yeah,
obviously with evidence that Hindus for Human Rights, an organization which is quite infamous by now, Sunita Vishwanath and the Kebal, that constantly targets Hindus. They should just probably rename themselves to Hindus for Islamist Human Rights or something like that. Uh, but or just put the Hindus in
Hindus
quotes.
against human, Hindus against Hindus. I mean, Hindu.
No, they should put in quotes Hindus and human rights, and the for should be the only word that should not be in quotes. Uh, so, but anyway, they actually co-host events with Islamic Circle of North America, ICNA, which is a fountainhead of many of these activist organizations. Uh, Indian American Muslim Council, uh, CARE, even CARE has strong links with ICNA, and and of course Hindus for Human Rights. And ICNA officially actually awarded the leader of the organization in Bangladesh, who was hanged by a Muslim government in Bangladesh for committing the genocide. They awarded this person as their Person of the Year award.
Yeah,
and
yep,
and on top of that, ICNA's New York chapter was led by somebody who was convicted of killing 28 people, again not by a Hindu organization or Indian government, but by the government of Bangladesh, which is by far from being a Hindu. It's a Muslim led government.
yep.
So that's the level of involvement. Like imagine this, like you have a Nazi person running an organization in America who actually committed genocide in the concentration camps, and getting away with it. So that's the level of getting away with many of these
Yeah.
Islamist organizations have done.
So look, I mean, I think Rokhanna won with a convincing majority, but he is going to be tested. He is going to be tested in the presidential election campaign when he decides to run. I don't know if he's going to challenge President Biden if he chooses to run again, or in a subsequent election. And at that time, we'll see. Who if Care again comes out in support for Rokhanna or not. But I'm hoping that at some point, uh, that once the entrenched incumbent, has moved away from that local politics, if it opens up opportunity for Ritesh Tandon, because Ritesh has, uh, you know, expressed very pro-Hindu views. And so let's see how it goes. But that is a really good example of two Hindus. People have to choose between the two Hindus in the in their district. The other candidate, Utsada, who won, is the longest serving uh, candidate of Indian origin, and I choose these words carefully because he used to be a Hindu, but he is not anymore. Is Ami Bera. So Ami Bera has now won five elections, and he's from California, from Southern California, and he is no longer Hindu, right? He is a universalist, and he has not supported Hindu causes
Unit,
as far as we know.
universal Unitarianist, I think.
Universal Unitarian. I'm sorry. Yeah,
So you
we
used
will
too many
we will
universals in there.
we will edit this out.
No, you got to say it right. You
We
cannot
got
have
to
too
say it
many.
right. I should have. Where's that coffee again? Here we go.
Yeah.
All right.
So
So tell us
yeah,
about Ami
no,
Bera.
well,
He
Ami
has a
Bera.
100%. By the way, he also has 100% rating from Care.
So Ami Bera, is one of those Indian American candidates who has always gone below the radar. He doesn't make controversial tweets on or tweets or statements. Nowadays everybody just makes tweets, uh, statements on Hindutva or India or Hindus. He just stays aloof. And but he's known to be quite influential. He's very well plugged into the Indian American politics. uh, he's often the darling of all these political action committees that Indian Americans and Hindu Americans come up with, especially Indian American ones, because they are usually the ones more inclined towards the Democratic Party. And he gets money, he gets their support, and I think he knows what to do, and he just does and checks the boxes and dots his i's and crosses his t's, and I think that takes care of his campaign, and he has been winning continuously. He's not been one of those who has made any splash. I don't think he has ambitions to become senator or run for president, but I think he's just gonna, do
Maybe,
what he's doing.
yeah. No, I
Yeah.
that you know now here is another person who never really flies under the radar, very well connected to the Hindu communities. By the way, Ami Bera, also has care rating. I think I mentioned 100% care rating. Other person who has a 100% care rating, but who seems to be in all the Hindu events as well, is Raja Krishnamurti. And now Raja
So
Krishnamurti.
Ami Bera is not in all the Hindu events. You have to understand. He's
No,
in
I said
Indian
Ami
America.
Bera, just like Ami Bera is all the Indian events.
Right.
Raja Krishnamurti is is on in all the Hindu events, um, but he also has a 100% care rating. It's a really nice
True.
balancing act there.
Yeah. I think Raja has done a very honest, a smart job, if I can put it that way. Uh, Honestly speaking, what he has done is he has touched the right spot when it comes to getting the Indian American and the Hindu American vote and donations. So Raja actually comes from a pretty challenging district in Illinois, because it has a significant Pakistani and Muslim American population as well. And he was tested quite aggressively. So, despite having a full rating from CARE, look at the brazenness with which Raja was attacked by Islamists. They put up a primary candidate against him, and then ran a vicious campaign in which Pakistani proxies, like Peter Frederick, Peter Frederick, who supports everything that wants to destroy India, literally, like everything that wants to destroy India and destroy Hindus, uh, has been supported by Peter Frederick. He literally lives off of it, and they unleashed Peter Frederick on during the primaries on Raja, and Peter Frederick went around calling for even death to Raja at one point, and people had to, civil rights leaders, Jesse Jackson Jr. came out and called Peter Frederick out for this kind of hate mongering and targeting of a Hindu candidate. So Raja has, Raja has reached a place where he just has to say that he's a Hindu, and Hindu Americans go and support him. He doesn't have to do anything for the Hindus to get their support. And it's a very fascinating place to be, because during this resolution, Bangladesh resolution, where even Ro Khanna co-sponsored it, a lot of the community leaders reached out to Raja for co-sponsorship, and so far it has not been coming. The resolution is in the house, and Raja has still not co-sponsored it, which kind of made me realize that Raja doesn't need to co-sponsor any resolution, because he doesn't fear losing Hindu support, because all he needs to do is to just go out and say that, I'm not going to do anything against you Hindus, and that is enough for Hindu Americans to support him. And that's a really interesting dynamic in this aspect.
Almost Utsada, it almost seems like the Hindu vote is pretty cheap. You get a picture with a candidate or elected official, or you get a promise, and Hindus will go out and donate money and vote for candidate just on for nothing, for a song and a whistle, right? It doesn't take much to get Hindu vote. Whereas people like Ro Khanna, people like Raja Krishnamurti, they actually work hard to get care rating of 100%. um, and I mean, Uh, we will be in the next edition of the Hindu Vote website. We are going to convert the voting records into the ratings for all the candidates, because we have all the data, and in the next few weeks you will see us continuously rate the candidate based on their pro-Hindu or anti-Hindu positions. But right now, I mean, it's very obvious that it does not take much uh, for candidates like Raja Krishnamurthy to pay Hindus, just cursory, uh, attention and get their votes. Uh,
So,
that
so,
that
so
Yeah, go
Ajay,
ahead.
I just wanted to add to this that I think I describe the predicament of the American Hindu community as the selfie complex. So the selfie complex is basically all it takes that for a American Hindu leader, politically conscious person to support a congressman or a congresswoman or a candidate is not whether the candidate supports the issues that we care about or actually does something about those issues. All our people care about, or when I say, obviously I'm generalizing, I'm not talking about everybody, but a big chunk of our leadership, all they care about is whether this person engages with us at a personal level. And the biggest test of that is whether he or she is willing, the candidate or the congressman is willing to take a selfie with us. uh, so a candidate supporting our issues, actually working, I mean, what's the purpose of a senator or a congressman? To make laws, pass resolutions, and pass bills, and make our voice heard. That's the only job we have from them, we expect from them. On one hand, we have a list of things we want them to do, and on the other hand, we have a selfie that we can take with them. Which of the two will win our support for them? They have figured out that all they need to do is take a selfie with us, and we will go out and support them. I have
and,
been
and
attending Diwali after Diwali events at the Capitol Hill over the last 2 months, different Diwali events by different organizations. And I'm sorry to say, but that is the trend.
you mean, Utsada, did you mean South Asian Festival of Lights, or you actually meant Diwali? Which one were you attending?
No, no, the different events had different flavors. I mean, there were events that were called, you know, Diwali, the South Asian Festival of Lights. There were events where Diwali was actually the Hindu festival of Diwali, and there were events where it was the Indian festival of Diwali. So the whole variety of Diwalis were organized at the Capitol Hill. But the overwhelming trend I saw was, when it comes to what means more to our community, it is the selfie with the lawmaker rather than what the lawmaker actually supports and proposes, promotes as a policy position for us. And I think that is unfortunate. I think that is one of the reasons why we are always in a situation where our political action committees, our organizations that raise money for all these congressmen, give some significant amount of money without any tangible return in terms of policy positions and bills and resolutions from these lawmakers. Uh,
Yeah,
there are
Utsada,
thousands and yeah.
my guess is that Hindu American, and based on not hard data but just empirical data, my guess is that American Hindus um, probably give more money to the politicians than care or Muslim Americans do.
No, no, I don't believe
And
that. I don't
I,
believe that.
I I I really sincerely do believe that, because there are major Indian donors who have who in some way or the other practice Hindu dharma uh, to some extent or the other, and they're very plugged into various political parties. If you look at the Democratic Party organs, some of the Republican Party organs, a lot of Hindu names in there, but the issues they end up supporting are not Hindu issues. In fact, there are 501c4s that are organs of some of the Democratic parties, some organs of Democratic Party, the 501c4, and they have supported, for example, a candidate in New York who was very very pro Pakistan, even though of Indian Kashmiri origin. this candidate was uh, blatantly anti-Hindu, blatantly anti-India, did not care for the Kashmiri Pandits who have been massacred and who continue to this day being driven out, whoever is left, or the migrant workers in Kashmir who have been getting killed uh, just almost a weekly basis. But this particular candidate had no regard for them, and this candidate was as anti-Hindu as you can come. It was supported by one of the South Asian 501c4s uh, with majority Hindus on the board.
Well, I think, that is a trend, and I would say that that is why it is important that that we transition towards American Hindu based outreach to lawmakers and elected officials, because two things are important why this needs to be done. American Hindu is an American identity. Indian American is a foreign identity. It's an identity that bases its roots in a extraterritorial geographical entity. Now, there could be people and organizations that have that role, like Armenians have that, because they identify as a significant ethnic, religious, extra geographical identity. But they are also Christians, so they do have a natural connections to America's majority. As Hindu Americans, we have to be very, very careful and very cautious to ensure the maximum uh, uh, son of the soil nature of our outreach, because at eventually, after another generation maybe, majority of the Hindus in America would be Hindus who are born
Yeah.
in America and have nothing to do with India. So to continuously perpetuate this Indian identity in America, I believe is a strategically and principally doctrinally, it's a self-defeating effort. And no matter how much resources you put into it, it will not bring the results, because you are it's like you are working on a Windows 95 versus you are working on a much later
Look, I mean,
platform.
and increasingly, a lot of a lot of Hindus are, and we have made this case that majority of the Hindus in America are increasingly not of Indian origin.
Origin, yeah,
They
and
are
that will
of
continue to rise.
European, African, Asian, and other origins. They are not Indian origin. That is not to say that we disrespect India or Indian Americans, but what we are trying to say is that India will and has and will always remain our dharma bhumi. It is the source of our inspiration when it comes to our faith, but and it comes to our way of living. It comes to our cultural and spiritual source. It will remain the cultural and spiritual source, but that is not a nationalist identity that most Hindus in America increasingly relate to, because it is not just the immigrant Indian American community, but it is multi-ethnic, multinational uh, community that adheres to a common religious, philosophical, and way of life. And that is what the American Hindu Dharma is. And to say that it can be subsumed under the Indian American identity is a fallacy. It cannot, that is not the reality of American Hindus. And increasingly, and going forward, it is going to be smaller and smaller part of the Hindu identity as more and more people adopt the Hindu way of life and Hindu spiritual principles and Hindu faith. So moving on to couple of candidates who actually are notable in their losses, and both of them actually lost because of redistricting. The first one I want to bring up, Utsada, is Padma Kupa. Padma Kupa was a Democrat who ran, who ran for a seat for the Michigan House. She was an incumbent. She she openly uh, said that she was a follower of Hindu Dharma, and she ended up losing her re-election bid. Now uh, her district was redrawn, so she lost to the redistricting, uh, and this was and she lost to a Republican. Now we should note that Michigan actually, for the first time in 40 years, went the the House went from Republican to Democrat. So it was a Democratic wave. On top of it, as I said earlier, her district was redrawn, and she ended up losing for like 700 and some votes, 700 votes essentially. Um,
Correct. Correct.
and we lost a really big proponent of Hindus in political process. Your thoughts?
So I think
And she
it's
has been
very,
on this show before. Uh, yeah,
yeah, it's very unfortunate that she lost. I mean, with such a small margin, out of 15,000 or so, 150,000 or so voters, just 700 votes is very, very unfortunate. And I think what we should ensure is that she stays engaged with the community, and her experience as an elected official brings out, we the community brings out the best of her experience as an elected official. And I think we should look into that and ensure that, because she will lose once, but it doesn't mean that that's the end of her role in public policy making or in politics. So we should ensure that she carries forward, and we keep supporting that.
yeah. So the other big disappointment was loss uh, of Representative Steve Shabbat. He was one of the co-sponsors of the House Resolution 1430 to recognize the genocide of you know of Bangladeshis, predominantly Hindus, in 1971. His district was also redrawn, um, and it's very unfortunate that we lost a very important ally.
That's correct. And I'm going to share the screen, Ajay bhai, and show Steve Shabbat's district. So if you see the screen, you will see hold on. You will see how in the bottom left corner in Cincinnati area, you see that bluish shade that is there. That's the part that was included in the redistricting, and that was a Democratic area. And if you see the arrow, that this is from New York Times analysis of different constituencies, and his constituency Ohio 1 I have marked in this color gradient. So what used to be before, you see the top square, what used to be before was that part was his constituency, and that tilted red mostly. So even though during this election, if you see the small arrow, his seat did he gained votes for himself amongst all voters. But despite that, because of the redistricting and the significant Democratic section in the bottom left corner of his constituency, which was included in his district, despite him gaining more votes amongst all voters, which means there was a Republican swing, pro-Republican swing, he lost by about 5% vote. And that you can see in the numbers. And that was a significant loss for the American Hindu community, because Steve Shabbat brought the historic 1430 resolution, that HRS 1430, that for the first time recognized a Hindu genocide, for the first time in our history recognized a Hindu genocide. And for all our Hindutva activists out there who have been talking about Hindu genocides, who have been working to ensure that there is awareness about it, this could have been a historical opportunity. But the good news, though, is that these resolutions don't go away. uh, Steve Shabbat brought it, Rokhanna co-sponsored it. It will carry forward. It will, it has, even now it has 3 co-sponsors, and it will keep adding more co-sponsors over the next month and half, and then in the next house, which reconvenes, even though Steve will not be there, I'm pretty sure there will be other lawmakers who are going to carry this forward, because it's a very well written resolution and it's historic in nature.
So, let me ask you this: now that Representative Shabbat has lost, I'm sure we'll find other co-sponsors. I have a I have a suggestion for a co-sponsor, someone who has been an ardent supporter of human rights and who is, very well known among the human rights, community, who is Hindu and uh, would not shy away or be intimidated when taking up a genuine human rights cause, and who won with a thumping majority again, and got elected from the state of Washington, Representative Pramila Jaipal. So, do you think that we can get the newly elected 100% care rated Representative Pramila Jaipal to co-sponsor the Bangladesh genocide resolution?
I'm counting on your convincing skills, Ajay bhai, to get
So
make that
that
happen.
you did such a fantastic job in building a bipartisan
I, I,
coalition on
I think
this.
nobody can come close to you, Ajay bhai, in terms
I
of
don't
holding
know, so that
people
I
and
leave.
influence them with their with your rationale. So
I'm just
hand it
asking,
over to
Sada,
you.
you look. I don't live in DC. I don't know how inside the Beltway stuff works. But you are right there in DC. You are well plugged in. What do you think of Representative Jaipal winning her re-election bid?
See, I think she comes from a part of the country where it's doesn't matter who stands from that seat. As long as you have core left, extreme left ideological moorings, you are going to win. Pramila Jaipal is actually by far probably the most influential of all the candidates we have discussed. Probably Ro Khanna is, sh- Pramila Jaipal and Ro Khanna are probably the two most influential when it comes to all the list of Hindu American candidates we discussed. Pramila Jaipal calls herself a Hindu, so I'm just going by what she calls herself. Uh, so, of all the Indian American and Hindu American lawmakers, Ro and Pramila are the most influential. Pramila is the leader of the squad, which keeps growing within the Democratic Party. And the squad, for those of you who are following politics in America, knew
The quad.
no, the quad is the Indo-Pacific.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
that's a geopolitical entity where
I see. Got it. Got
yeah,
it.
this is
Yeah.
the squad.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
so the squad is, extreme left, almost bordering on anarchist ideologues within the Democratic Party, who have a very strong voice, whose voice has been growing. They have significant Islamist connections because the Islamists kind of owned they supported them when they were not strong, and now they kind of own their narrative to some extent because of Rashida Tlaib and Ilan Omar being in the squad. But the rest are extremely left of center and extremely almost anarchist, in my opinion. And Pramila is the leader, and Pramila has a very very strong voice. uh, I mean, her voice was curtailed down a little bit last month when the squad came out with a press statement against the Ukrainian war and was very quickly told to shut up and walk back. So, they made a press statement in the morning against the Ukrainian war, and then in the evening they said it was a mistake and somebody had read an old press release or something. Like, it was ridiculous how they walked back, but it kind of showed them their place, that okay, you may talk as much as you want, but you still are under under the larger Democratic Party agenda item. So, but anyway, going back, I think she is a very powerful leader. She won with a significant majority. Like, her win was by far the most convincing of all the candidates that we are discussing. 85% to 14%. You can't get worse than, I mean, bigger gap than that. And I think it was pretty fascinating. And go forward, and let's get her
Well,
co-sponsorship.
I mean, if she does not support the House Resolution 1430, then I think we should support uh, her next primary opponent, who I'm sure will, and that would be Kshama Sawant. I mean, she is from the same district, same area, and Kshama also being a Hindu and very active.
I don't know if Shima Sawant calls herself a Hindu, so let's not.
Kshama Sawant we can convince her to call herself Hindu and challenge from Representative Jaipal,
There you go,
and
Ajay. So since you
coerce her into supporting for House Resolution 1430.
So there you go. Since you have the power and the ability to convince
I don't have
Shabasa
power
to
in the
call herself a
I don't have
Hindu,
power.
you might as well convince Pramila to co-sponsor HRS 1430.
I mean, I think a little bit of competition never hurt anyone, right? I think
That's
Shama should challenge Representative Jaipal.
sure.
If Representative Jaipal does not co-sponsor House Resolution 1430, if she does, then we are all good, right? Because we want from her is to recognize the genocide of 3 million Hindus. That is not
That's
too much to ask for a liberal Democrat who has always stood up for human rights. So this
that's
is
correct.
nothing. This is not an unreasonable demand, unreasonable request that please stay true to your liberal roots and support this House resolution. Um,
Correct.
I would you know let's hope. I mean, I as I said, we are not partisan. We want politicians from both parties, liberals and conservatives, everyone
But
to
something has to be said
recognize.
about the fact, Ajay Bhai, that even though Hindu Americans were very eagerly supporting many Republican candidates and were very well connected with Republican candidates, other than Steve Chabot, there is not a single Republican who co-sponsored the HRS 1430, despite despite appeals by many of their Hindu supporters, who I know personally quite well. So there is something to be said about the fact that you know even though we have been discussing ad nauseum about how many Democrats, including many Hindu Democrats, have not always supported Hindu issues that are important to the community. There is a lot to be expected from Republican candidates as well. And Republicans, I'm sure, if they're listening, and those of our readers and those of our listeners who are connected to the Republicans, ask them why they have not supported HRS 1430 yet. So that's important.
Hey, so the squad and the Samosa caucus both got a new Hindu American member this in this election cycle, and that is Sri Thanedar. So Sri Thanedar was elected in this election cycle to the House of Representatives. Um, what do we know about him, and uh, what do you think about that? He is elected from Michigan, uh, and the district number is 13, which is and he got a good he won with 71% votes. He was in the Michigan House of Representatives. He also ran for the governor of Michigan and win. But now he is in the House of Representatives and he promptly joined the squad. Uh, he's a self-made millionaire, PhD in chemistry with the MBA, and has started companies. Was awarded one of the top entrepreneurs award by the government of India under Prime Minister PV Narasimha Rao, and he is in his autobiography. He has not shied away from saying he is a Hindu. Uh, what do we know about him, and do we can we count on him in supporting the Hindu causes?
It needs to be seen. In the past, we have seen many people who identify as Hindus come under pressure from the extremely powerful Islamist lobby and buckle and go out towards a direction where they constantly are chasing a carrot on a stick. So that has been the case in the past. I have seen with many people. I am yet to see. I won't make a judgment on Sri Thanedar yet. Uh, but given the fact that he's from a state which has a strong Islamist uh, tinge, in Islamist leaning within many Democratic Party candidates. In fact, even within Republican Party candidates, also it's beginning. You must have seen that in Detroit area, the radical Muslims started aligning with Republicans because they share a common dislike for LGBTQ issues, and they found a bonding on that. So politics has strange outcomes, and I'm yet to see. I'm not going to make a judgment on Sri Thanedar yet. I am. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic.
All right, Utsada. And
I think
uh,
we are running out of time,
we are
Ajay.
running out of time. I just want to acknowledge one more candidate from California, because this is a candidate who I see having a profound impact going forward, and that's Rishi Kumar. Uh, and Rishi Kumar ran against Representative Anna Eschu in this election cycle, as he did last time as well. And that's the final candidate we analyzed. What do you think about Rishi Kumar's fight, and what do you think about his future in the election? Because Anna Eschu has not been very pro Hindu, pro India. Do we see do we see Rishi Kumar at some point winning?
So I think I agree with you. Rishi Kumar has a bright future. If you see the voting patterns this election itself, Rishi Kumar actually gained a significant amount of vote. Uh, though you have to remember, because of laws in California, where the top two contenders from the primary run, Rishi Kumar also ran on the Democratic Party ticket, as did Anna Eshu. So both were Democrats, and it was a Democrat versus Democrat. So that, that tells you a lot about that constituency, which is California District 16. And Rishi Kumar did pretty good. I don't know going forward how he's going to be moving within the community and outside the community in terms of his political future. But I have to say one thing about Anna Ishu. Anna Ishu was, she comes from an extremely liberal constituency, so she's expected to be more on the left of center on Hindu issues. But I haven't seen her make any major policy decisions or support any major policy decisions against the community in the last 2 years. Before that, yes, not in the last 2 years. Also, she's has a strong support in the Armenian American community, and as the Armenian American community has moved progressively towards the Hindu American community in terms of alignment on issues, I think Anna issue as well has also moved a little bit in that direction.
Yeah,
But nevertheless, Rishi Kumar, whether it is Anna issue as an opponent or not, I think Rishi Kumar is going to go forward significantly in representing our community.
yeah. Also, one thing I do want to call out is that, look, I mean, in politics makes strange bedfellows, and largely the Hindu and Armenian interests have aligned. But in this election cycle, at least one of the Armenian groups endorsed Representative Ilhan Omar, and that's an
Not
example
just
that.
not only that, Anka, who actually supported our resolution,
Correct.
also opposed Steve Shabbat, because Steve
Yeah.
Shabbat was part of the Turkey caucus and
Correct.
was celebrating when Steve Shabbat lost. So it is,
So
that tells you.
we wherever our interests align, we are
Correct,
definitely aligned. But
correct.
people should know that it's not always on all issues. We are not going to agree with everyone.
Exactly, and everybody is looking out for their own interest, and
Correct.
that is okay. That's how politics works.
Exactly. Hey, Utsada, with that, we complete the analysis of the elections. We had a lot more candidates to cover, but this was an engaging, good conversation, and hopefully, people who are watching this will like it. Now, quickly going through our three regular segments. Here it is.
मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं वचसा सततं वदनीयं मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं वचसा सततं वदनीयं लोकहितं.
And Utsada, for the Hindu Seva and Charity Act of the Week, we once again request that people go and donate to Hindu Pack for Hindu Vote website. Hindu Vote is something we just talked about the election process. We talked about the importance of the American Hindu vote. We told you what Hindu Pact has done to educate and mobilize the American Hindu voters. We need your help. We need your help in supporting us. Please go to hindupact.org, hindupact.org, and click on the donate button on the right hand side of the screen and donate to Hindu Pact. So, again, once again, for this last time in this election cycle, we have picked Hindu Vote as our Seva Charity Act of the week, and we hope that people go out and support Hindu Pact. So that brings us to the next you know segment, regular segment that we have, and that regular segment is Hindu good news of the week. So that we I don't think we have talked about this, and I wanted to bring this up in past, because this happened couple of weeks ago, and we haven't had a show. But it's always gratifying to see that a Hindu mandir has been inaugurated in Middle East. So we talked about BAPS Hindu mandir that is being built, I believe, in Doha. Uh, but this one is the
Doha, are you sure, Ajay bhai? Doha is
not
in
Doha.
Qatar.
I'm sorry. The BAPS mandir. I'm trying to remember where it is now. Do you remember where the
I think it
uh,
should be either in Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi? I'm sorry, Abu Dhabi.
Be
Abu
very
Dhabi.
careful. You're gonna
Yeah, we
get
have
the
to be very
PMK
careful. I
in trouble
understand. Doha
again.
will not do it. Qatar will not do it. Doha, So yeah, I agree. My apologies. It is the Hindu mandir in Abu Dhabi that BAPS is building. But this one, Utsada, is one in Dubai. And Dubai had one Hindu mandir that was built in, a century ago or so. It was one floor of a building. And finally, I think they now have a formal um, Hindu mandir right next to a gurudwara which was opened in 2012. So it has the architecture of a mandir, and it really does, have finally have the other one was just a plain building and a floor in the plain building. I believe we might have talked about it earlier, but now we have a formal inauguration that took place just a couple of weeks ago when we were off. And we want to congratulate the Hindu community of Dubai. We want to congratulate and thank the rulers of Dubai for Hindu Mandir. I think you know for the number of followers Hindu Dharma in Dubai, uh, one mandir is not enough. Many more need to be there. Just like, you know there are no restrictions of on building masjids in India, masjids in America, masjids in Western countries or Asian countries. I hope that the Middle Eastern countries also kind of open up and allow more mandirs to be built, so that literally hundreds of thousands of Hindus who live in Dubai and who live in Abu Dhabi and who live in Qatar and who live in Kuwait and other Middle Eastern countries have a place to worship. So, but it is a good beginning, and we hope that this continues with more and more mandirs coming into picture. So, now finally, and so that finally the Hindu phobe of the week, Hindu phobe of the week, or Hindu hater of the week, uh, is this onslaught um, against Hindus during Diwali. We have talked about weaponization of Hindu festivals, and here is a Hindu family, and this is in India. So this is in India, which is a state which is 65% Hindus. Ever Islamist beat up a scheduled caste Dalit community members for bursting firecrackers in in Kerala, in Palakkad. So even in India, Hindu festivals are under attack, and that to a significant festival like Diwali. So, do we now have to say that there are no go zones for Hindus in India, where Hindus cannot celebrate their important festivals? What is going on?
Well, that's been the case for last 800 years or so, depending on which part of India you're from, and maybe longer. Nothing. I mean, things have changed, and then things haven't changed. There are parts in small little areas in India which are fully controlled by Islamists, and you have these issues. It's been happening in other parts of the country as well. I mean, it's not something new. I think it's what is new is that it's being reported. Uh, I see a lot of people in India saying, "Oh, this is happening here. This has never happened before." Trust me, when it comes to atrocities against Hindus in India, uh, what you see today is the least that has ever happened in the last 1,000 years. It has always happened more before, including in the last 50 years and 70 years. It's just that more and more people are reporting it. There is more consciousness, there is more social media, there is more visibility. You know, I was surprised by this whole issue of this guy, love jihad, where this case where this person cut a young woman, Hindu woman, into pieces and continued to date other women.
Shraddha Walkar. Her name
Yeah,
was Shraddha Walkar.
correct. And people are astonished, people are flabbergasted at how it happened, why it happened. Trust me, if this was happening every year for the last 70 years and every year for the last 800 years before that, I mean, they weren't putting people in the fridge, but this kind of violence against Hindus was
No, I
happening.
mean, these are the violent. I mean, if people who are interested
Getting
in
reported
following
now.
these,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's getting, for the first time,
just
I
go to
was like,
hindupost.in. If you go to
forget Hindu Post,
hindupost.in, you'll see one
NDTV,
incident a day.
NDTV, Z News, Times of India, mainstream Indian media for the first time are reporting it and discussing it. That's
Yeah,
why you hear more about it. In fact, I
correct.
would say this is a good thing. But trust, anything that you are worried about as an atrocity against Hindus in India or the Indian subcontinent now has been happening for the last 70 years and the 800 years before that. We are at
Absolutely.
probably the best time that the Hindus have ever had in the Indian subcontinent, and
All right.
that's really
On
sad.
that positive note, let's
Yeah,
end today's program. I want to thank everyone for joining. This is a recorded version of Hindu Lounge. Thank you for joining us. Hindu Lounge comes live every Saturday, every Sunday rather, at 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindu Pact, Hindu Policy Research and Advocacy Collective. Utsada is Utsav Chakravarti. He is the executive director of Hindu Pact. I'm Ajay Shah. I am the president of World Hindu Council of America, which which has several initiatives, and one of them is Hindu Pact. So we welcome you again to join the conversation on the chat, and join us again next week when we come live to talk about another contemporary American Hindu issue. With that, thank you and namaste.
namaste.